You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Monday, June 24th. Weston cannot join me today. He's feeling a little under the weather, but that's all right. We've got plenty to discuss today, just me and you. By the way, live chat, keep it popping today, because I'm going to need you. We've got a lot to discuss. Brandon Aiyuk, once again, making some news with the 49ers. He has requested a meeting with the 49ers. I know a lot of people were sharing the fact that yesterday on Instagram, he posted on his story, he was on a private jet, and he tagged Bay Area as the geotag. And so people wondered, what does this mean? Does this mean he's coming to the Bay to sign his deal? What is going on? This has to be good, right? I didn't think anything of it at the time. I thought, hey, could go either way. But today, Ryan Clark on ESPN gave us some news, some pivotal news, I should say. That's a joke because Ryan Clark is one of the hosts of the Pivot, an awesome sports podcast. Anyway, Brandon Aiyuk earlier in the week joined him on and joined the Pivot on this podcast to talk about, I guess how this offseason's been going. And so Ryan Clark reported that Brandon Aiyuk is disgruntled. And here's, I'm going to read it right here. This is a tweet from Ari Marav, my sports update, talking about Ryan Clark's report. It reads, Brandon Aiyuk told Ryan Clark that he's been taking negotiations personal, and the offers so far have affected him. Aiyuk's first choice is to stay in San Francisco, but he is comfortable playing elsewhere if they are willing to trade him. Aiyuk is meeting with the 49ers today, a meeting he requested. Now, again, all this came out today, Monday, June 24th, and so Brandon Aiyuk meeting with the 49ers brass or whoever, I would assume Prague, maybe Jed York, John Lynch, maybe Kyle Shanahan. I don't know, to be honest with you. We just know that the Brandon Aiyuk is going to be meeting with 49ers today, Monday, June 24th, at some point. Now, we don't really know what this meeting is going to entail, but we can assume that Brandon Aiyuk is kind of reaching a breaking point in all this. Is, Ryan Clark saying he's taking all of this personal. I don't think it's going to be that positive of a conversation. Clearly, Brandon Aiyuk wasn't flying to the Bay Area to sign that deal, but hoping to maybe push the 49ers in that direction. So I think the outcome of all of this could be a couple things. And it all is dependent on how the 49ers react to the situation. All right. They can either say, all right, fine, Aiyuk. We hear you. We're going to work something out. We'll meet you in the middle. How's this? There's going to be another offer. Maybe at that point, Brandon Aiyuk, signs it. Or, it could be bad. It could go south. Like maybe the 49ers say, no, we don't want to meet you at that number. So I guess we are going to trade you. Or Brandon Aiyuk requests a trade possibly in this meeting. I guess we don't really know, but we're all hoping it's going to be a positive conversation. But it, at this point, feels like it could go in any direction. But I will say this. Anytime that I feel like the 49ers have been kind of pressured, I guess I could say, by a player, or the player has pushed the issue a little bit, 49ers have found a way to get it done. I mean, the Christian McCaffrey contract request, him requesting a new deal kind of came out of nowhere, but they were like, yeah, okay. Again, that's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, you can't really make too many arguments against that. You think back a few years ago when Raheem Mostert was still on the team, and Raheem Mostert asked for, a pay raise as well. At that point, the 49ers also, gave into that as well. So I think there's a few things we can point at to the 49ers when the players are serious and they come to them and they're like, man, like how can we work this out? I feel like the 49ers have found a way to make it work. You can look at Brandon Aiyuk coming to the table and requesting this meeting by the 49ers as a positive. I mean, so far up to this point, in the last few weeks, it has felt like both sides have been communicating through the media in different ways, right? Like you see beat writers saying certain things about how the negotiations are going, and then you see Brandon Aiyuk and some of his friends, or colleagues saying certain things about how things are going, and that's the most communication we've kind of seen between the two sides. Now, clearly, it's hit a point where Brandon Aiyuk feels like he needs to get some things off of his chest, and he no longer wants to do that on TikTok, on Instagram. He wants to do it face to face with the guys that he is his representation has been negotiating with, hoping they can work something out. I kind of see it as a positive. I mean, to me, it shows Brandon Aiyuk wants to get this done or wants to figure something out. At the same time, though, I do think Brandon Aiyuk would be fully prepared to go into this meeting thinking that, hey, if the 49ers don't want to give me what I want and they're still playing hardball, I'm going to ask to be traded. Like, I do think Brandon Aiyuk is willing to take it there. He's been hanging around with Jaden Daniels a lot. Say what you want about that, right? But, of course, it's brought along a lot of speculation about Brandon Aiyuk potentially being willing to play somewhere else, as this report even says. And it would make a lot of sense, let's just say, for the Commanders to be another team that Brandon Aiyuk could play for, with the numerous connections that he has to folks over there, Adam Peters, Jaden Daniels. All right, so yeah, I could see that happening. So we'll see what the 49ers reaction is to all of this. I think that this meeting taking place, we're going to have some type of answer as to where this is going relatively soon. And by relatively soon, I just mean like within the next couple weeks, I would say. So we'll see. We'll see what comes out of it. I think it's interesting that, again, Brandon Aiyuk requested this meeting. Who's gonna be involved in this meeting? That's the question. Is this the time where Kyle Shanahan might step into the conversation? I don't know. He's done it in the past for someone as important as Trent Williams. And Kyle Shanahan has said, I try to stay out of it. Is this, one example where he might, get in John Lynch's ear and says, hey, just get this done, man. Like, I don't even care. We'll see what happens. We'll definitely see. But yeah, I would expect that, and it's just my opinion, but I expect that we'll probably get some answer as to what is going to come out of this in the next few weeks. I mean, the news coming out of Brandon Aiyuk to this point has been entertaining, to say the least. I was totally expecting today, Monday, to be a quiet Monday, but it seems like there's been new Brandon Aiyuk updates every single week. Randy says, come on, Steph, where are we going? What do you mean? Where? Come on, where? Well, what did I say that was wrong? Let me know. I don't know. I feel like I'm looking at this pretty realistically as to what could take place after this meeting. Now, I guess we'll just have to wait and see, as we have been this entire time. But yeah, it definitely feels like this is a fork in the road in the negotiations, and there are several outcomes. Now, if you were to ask me, what do I think is most likely to happen at this point, I would say that I still feel like Brandon Aiyuk is going to be a Niner in 2024. I mean, I've said it multiple times for the 49ers. It simply does not make sense for them to trade him away and not get better in 2024 in return. Or it doesn't make sense for them to not get something they can use in 2024, right? When the draft was happening, a trade would have made sense then, because the 49ers could have immediately flipped those picks into a player or two. And I mean, the rest is history, right? But now that the draft has passed, you're talking about getting picks in 2025. How does that help you for 2024? It doesn't. So I don't think the 49ers would feel very inclined to make that happen. Now, if they know for sure that what Brandon Aiyuk is asking for is so much money and they know they're not willing to meet that amount and Brandon Aiyuk is giving them an ultimatum, then, I mean, I really think that they, out of respect to Brandon Aiyuk, and at that point, they'd probably say, okay, yeah, fine. We'll find you a trade partner. But I still feel like that's an unlikelier situation just because of what's riding on 2024. I do still feel like the 49ers want Brandon Aiyuk, but also if they can see how 2025 go, or sorry, if they can see how 2024 goes, have him play on the 5th-year option, I think they would prefer to make a much more informed decision after the season on Brandon Aiyuk than just pay him the money that he wants right now. So I kind of feel like that's why the 49ers have not felt any pressure to get this done to this point. And then again, you look at when the 49ers have, usually gotten these deals done, and they're right around the start of training camp, and that's not for another month. So I was expecting the 49ers would call Brandon Aiyuk's bluff and wait until that time comes and see if Brandon Aiyuk changes his mind or, starts to get a little more antsy and maybe is ready to come to the table then. This is Brandon Aiyuk forcing the issue, forcing that conversation to happen now on his terms, not waiting until the 11th hour of the offseason to get it done. So again, it's dependent on what the 49ers reaction is to this conversation. But if we simply feel that this meeting that's taking place today would have happened anyway, like closer to training camp, then I mean, I still feel like it could be a good thing. So again, coming to the table is a good thing, and this could make way for positive conversations. It might not start positive, it might be like, I don't know, it might be bad at first. But I think like the 49ers are probably way more blunt about things talking to Brandon Aiyuk's representation than they would be to Brandon Aiyuk's face. So at least that's just what I assume and think. So we'll see if the conversations change at all or are more positive with Brandon Aiyuk, like I said, coming to the table. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, as we have been this entire offseason. Again, the 49ers feeding us content. It's like they know we had nothing to talk about, and they're like, all right, we got you. So, and by the way, Ryan Clark came out with this report based on what Brandon Aiyuk said in his guest appearance on the Pivot podcast. All right. So his report is coming from that podcast and what was said in that podcast, which is going to be coming out later this week, by the way. One of the things that Ryan Clark said when he was reporting this on ESPN was that Jaden Daniels, walked in with Brandon Aiyuk. Ryan Clark was not talking about the meeting with the 49ers. Jaden Daniels did not walk in to the meeting that Brandon Aiyuk had with the 49ers. I want to make that very, very clear, because I've seen a number of people reading into that wrong or just like comprehending that wrong. And I've seen that getting spread as like misinformation. This is how misinformation happens, right? We're going to cut that right there. Jaden Daniels was not part of the 49ers meeting with Brandon Aiyuk, okay? Jaden Daniels and Brandon Aiyuk were hanging out sometime last week when this podcast was being filmed and recorded, and Jaden Daniels walked in with Brandon Aiyuk because they're friends. That's all there is to it. It's really like, it's not that deep. I promise you, it's not. All right. So I don't want people freaking out about the Jaden Daniels part of all this. And I know all the clickbait, pages that are out there are really milking that headline. But I just need you guys to understand that Jaden Daniels was not at the meeting with the 49ers, all right? So let's not repeat that. Okay, so do you guys feel a little bit better about the situation now? I mean, like I said, you could look at it as a positive. Could be a good thing to come out of it. It's definitely more productive to have a conversation, these two sides, than to do all this social media talking and doing all this talking through agents and beat writers and all this, right? This is way more productive. So for that, I think we got to be feeling good about that part, right? David McNiner says, "What's good, Steph? I am sick of all the posturing on Aiyuks and cut out all the drama." Honestly, I feel like this conversation is doing that. Like, I think to a certain point, Brandon Aiyuk was trying to just roll with the punches. He was feeling hurt, but he was kind of going to social media to prove, like, man, I'm not sweating this. I'm not hurt. Going on social media, trolling a little bit, making jokes, FaceTiming Jaden Daniels, saying they don't want me, like all this stuff. Like, to me, that was like some type of like coping mechanism to like the stress. There's real stress that comes from these negotiations. And we're talking about months and months on end that has been going on. So again, I feel like it's way more productive for Brandon Aiyuk to be requesting this conversation with the 49ers than to be talking indirectly on social media. So if you're tired of the drama, you should be in favor of Brandon Aiyuk having this meeting with the 49ers because, again, I think it's productive and it's in hopes of trying to get a resolution to all this, which I think we're all in favor of. So I get it. I get the frustration with seeing players air out the dirty laundry on social media. I understand it because we just want something to get done. But sometimes that's just how players deal with their emotions. I don't know. Yeah, and I agree. Meetings can absolutely have many outcomes, but just having the conversation alone, like I said, more productive than anything that was happening in the last month, I think. So something is going to come from this, whether it's good or bad, but we're going to get the answer a hell of a lot quicker than had Brandon Aiyuk not requested this meeting. Coach Noop asks, does this deal or conversation have any effect on Deebo? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, Deebo's a Niner in 2024 as well. Both he and Brandon Aiyuk are under contract for 2024. So I don't think that really changes with this meeting, right? We'll just have to see. I think regardless, like Deebo's playing for rights to stay with the 49ers. Like, I think he wants to stay at the same time. Like, I think he knows that if he balls out, the 49ers, well, not necessarily if he balls out, but like regardless, I think the 49ers have a decision to make on which wide receiver they want to keep. It's either Deebo or Brandon Aiyuk long term, right? And so that's the only thing that affects Deebo. But in 2024, they're both going to be Niners. So, no, I don't think it directly affects Deebo all that much. Although it'll be interesting if Brandon Aiyuk is forced to play on the fifth-year option. Then you have both Deebo and Brandon Aiyuk competing against each other essentially, and I don't know, that could be ugly too. So we'll have to see. Fish and Chip says, I'm only guessing, but I'm sure BA doesn't want to miss training camp. His game is timing and elite route running. You need to do that against NFL players, not in the local field. Yeah, a part of me. So here's another positive I'm taking from Brandon Aiyuk, like saying like, all right, let's go, is to me, like, it tells me like, not only is he tired of being stressed over it, but I think he's tired of like not playing, not practicing with, his teammates. And and getting ready for the season. Like, let's be honest, he's not getting ready for the season when he's catching passes against air, no defenders, like in between trees in his backyard. Like, I don't know. I think he knows that if this goes much longer, his season might get impacted, just like Deebo, just like Nick Bosa said, their long negotiations impacted their seasons. And I feel like Brandon Aiyuk at this point, along with everything else and the frustration he's felt with everything else, is wanting to just get back to playing football, which I cannot blame him for. But yeah, this is a crazy situation. This is like a telenovela, man, and the 49ers, they're at the top, man, when it comes to content. But anyway, so that's the latest on Brandon Aiyuk. Just wanted to share that with you guys, do a little quick show. Like I said, Weston couldn't join me today. He is feeling under the weather. Weston, hope you're feeling all right. If you guys have been tuning in to the sparkling water ratings, like I just tried Clearly Canadian, which is the water brand that Weston told me about. I didn't even know about this brand. But anyway, that'll be coming out later tonight. I also filmed another fan cave tour today, and that will be coming on Friday. So if you guys didn't check out the last one that I did with Niner Jim, make sure you guys check that out. An awesome fan cave. He lives in Philly, so it was cool to see that. But yeah, I got other content for you guys. So if you guys are also tired of the Brandon Aiyuk discussion, pop on over to my YouTube, Steph49K, to check all of that out. But for now, guys, I appreciate you staying in touch with me and seeing what's up. But for now, have a good rest of your Monday, folks. Peace.